we've almost forgotten as humans that we have these gifts within us, and all of us have unique gifts, and they're not things that AI can do. That's why the slogan is, "This is not tech for addiction. This is tech for remembrance," because it's about this remembering of our humanity.
Welcome to Real Women, Real Results, the podcast where we go beyond the reps and dive into what it really takes to live a stronger, healthier, and more confident life. I'm your host, Jamie Revelle, women's fitness expert and founder of W3 Body women's training gyms in Chicagoland. Each week, we'll bring you real stories, expert insights, and the tools you need to create real results. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Real Women, Real Results. Today, we're exploring something a little different, but very exciting. We all know technology is shaping our lives every single day, but what if it could actually help us heal? My guest today is working on a groundbreaking AI project that blends technology with the world of healing and wellness. We'll talk about how this works, why it matters, and what it might mean for the future of self-care. For those of you who did not listen to our previous episode yet, Sheenae was our guest, and she was talking about her work in energy and sound healing, breath work, and subconscious reprogramming. She is back today to talk about her latest project and tech endeavor. So welcome back, Sheenae, and thank you again for being here.
Yay! Thank you again for having me.
Awesome. So we're going to jump right in. Can you share a little bit about the inspiration for this AI project and what problem that you're hoping that it solves?
Yeah, for sure. So in the last episode, I talked a lot about my journey of kind of expanding consciousness and getting into some of these mindfulness practices. And I think one of the things that I noticed is that whenever I had a big experience, like a retreat, or I went to some training, or I had some experience where I was like all of a sudden so expanded, my mind was thinking in new ways, but I didn't have the support system that was available to maintain that level of growth. So I keep using the metaphor of a hermit crab, where I would feel like a hermit crab growing out of its shell, and then I would get back into my home environment, try to get back into my old shell, and it just wasn't fitting. And long story short, like I had a situation actually where I was in my steady corporate ladder climbing phase of my life, and then an unexpected move to Canada led to a layoff, job loss, didn't have working rights, healthcare, all of that. And it was just like, then came the phase of me doing all these like growth experiences to be like, okay, can I transition to a new track? And every time that happened, I went back into my old shell or just like my home environment, I didn't have anything to support maintaining it, because everything in my environment was supporting the old version of me rather than the version of me I was growing into. So then I was like, okay, there needs to be some kind of support system for the in-between times. Because even when you're working with a coach or a trainer, or I can think about even like women at your gyms, like, they're at the gym like a couple, like let's say an hour, however long a day, or maybe they're going to a couple classes a week. But to maintain that level of transformation, even on a physical level, or for Aurion, it's a little bit more like holistic on mind, body, spirit, the holistic level. It really supports that transformation journey. So it's maintained throughout any period of time, but designed not to be addictive. So that's kind of the issue with our technologies right now, is that a lot of them are built on user engagement, but building a technology that's not about user engagement, that's actually about getting us back to our human gifts. So it's funny how I like, people are sometimes like, wait, a technology that helps us become more human? I'm like, yes, exactly. It feels like a human training platform almost, or like a human
Yeah.
guide helping us find our irreplaceable purpose in this AI-driven future.
Yeah, I'm sure you get like a lot of looks like, how? What do you mean? And
Yeah.
how is that exactly possible? So, in terms of like what you just mentioned, and even thank you for, relating it to my listeners, my women here at my gyms and beyond, many women feel overwhelmed and disconnected in general, just with so many responsibilities and things going on. How do you see technology helping bridge that gap instead of making it worse? So I guess I'm asking a little bit more like tell me more. How does it work?
Yeah. Well, within the Aurion system, the AI system, there are different portals that coincide with different aspects of the transformation journey. So I kind of mirrored these portals off of the different aspects of my own journeys and how they almost create this arc. And like at any given point, there's a different aspect. So the 8 different portals, and I chose the 8 because the 8 sideways is the infinity symbol. So it's kind of like you're ever cycling and evolving through these transformational processes. It doesn't ever end, but you're tapping in at different points. So these go in no specific order. It's just wherever you're at in your journey at any given point. So alignment is the first one. So that's like getting aligned. So clarity, direction, action. That's kind of when you have everything that's like coming together and moving forward. And within these portals, they all like communicate with you in different ways. So have you used ChatGPT? So imagine if there's like a different energetic tone to each of these different portals in the way they speak to you, the way they support you, the way they communicate with you, and the types of guidance and advice that they're going to provide. So like that kind of like almost like an energetic archetype in the AI world, they're called like agents. So it could be like an AI agent. So like the alignment guides, they're going to get you in alignment. Then the next one is protection. So that's kind of like boundaries, discernment, saying no. So kind of how to create those energetic boundaries to protect your energy and to move forward in the directions that you want to. So I'm like trying to think about how I can make it applicable to the fitness spaces, but protecting yourself from, getting pulled in directions of, I don't know, bad habits like fast food or, going down the train of like self-deprecation or anything like that, like keeping those boundaries in place. So you're saying like you're kind of transmuting those shadows into light. So protection portal, embodiment portal, this would probably be most closely related to the gyms because that's like somatic wisdom. So that's getting out of your heads and into your body. So that's like movement, presence, that's like thinking about the 5 senses and our sensory experience of life. But it's really that somatic wisdom and what I talked about in the last episode, where it's like the body holds so much energy, so much memory, so much trauma. So that's the embodiment portal. Next one is creation portal. So that's kind of inspiring, sparking creativity, your soul gifts, manifesting your dreams into action, and just kind of sparking creative ideas. The next one is abundance. So it's kind of like wealth, generosity, giving and receiving. So kind of like circular abundance. So, and abundance in all forms, not just monetary, also abundance. Abundance comes in friendships, relationships, nature,
Yeah.
connection, mindfulness, etc. And then Phoenix is death and rebirth. So that's kind of like ego death. So think of a phoenix like dissolving and then rising from the ashes. So it's kind of like that transformational one. If you're going through a major transition, like you're moving countries, you're going through a divorce or breakup, you're changing complete career trajectories, that kind of thing. Galactic is kind of like interconnectedness, like a connection to something greater. So it's kind of like that multidimensional nature to us being more than just this 3D human physical reality. And then integration is like kind of the one where it's like you are taking time, space, stillness, and you're gathering insights that you've just gained from your experience into wisdom, into grounded direction and moving forward. So that's kind of the way I describe it is it like there are all these different portals and also like in the future, these different portals will align to specific types of people that are guides. So, there might be somebody who specializes in somatic wisdom or like thinking about your gyms, right? Your gyms might be a really great place for somebody who's kind of like getting into the embodiment portal, like getting familiar with their body, with their strength. That might be something where it's like, oh, you're located in Chicago. This is an interesting gym that you could be a part of or start to join for your fitness journey. Whereas, for Solii, what we talked about in the last session, let's say it's a bit around breath work or something. So maybe that's a little bit more of that galactic portal. So it's kind of like that altered state of consciousness, expanding your mindset. And it depends on what you get from the experience, but it could go into one of the different portals. But that's kind of like the way it touches on different aspects of the human transformation experience.
I love the symbolism, by the way, of the 8. I think I saw that on your Instagram too, or in one of your videos. That's really cool. I love that.
Mm.
And I want to dive deeper into like how it works and how it collects information and things like that. But before we do that, I just want to touch on this, which is that a lot of us think of tech as like cold or, you know, there's no human connection, impersonal with, especially with like mindless scrolling. People always talk about that, overstimulation. So how do you make sure for yourself and then for people in like your consumers in the future that this project in general feels supportive and human?
Yeah. I mean, great question. I mean, I think it starts with a couple different things. Me as a founder, maintaining my humanness. So, working with pausing and being intuitive and working with space and stillness rather than the usual tech founder that would just be operating like a machine and
Mhm.
not thinking about the ethics and the responsibility of it. Like, actually taking time and space to think about how will this affect people at this part of the process? How will this affect people in this part of the process? Like being very, very intentional every single step of the way. But then it's also thinking about the specific guardrails in place, similar to what I was saying before, is like how to create a system that's not about user engagement. It's thinking about the thresholds that are not going to be like how to continue asking somebody questions to keep them on a platform. I noticed that within the certain AI systems, and I won't name them, but like they can just keep you going. You are just like
Mhm.
consume, consume, consume. But eventually, I would like to also integrate these with biofeedback devices. So there's a lot of technology that keeps us addicted to our phones embedded, like even like eye tracking. Like we it tracks like where we're looking at the screen, and that's how it knows which reels to pop up for us. There's a lot of advanced technology out there. But what if we could use that advanced technology to actually help people understand where they're at and help people, like, if their nervous system is dysregulated, if their biofeedback is, their heart rate variability is off the charts, if their eye movement is going like this and that's associated with being dysregulated, can we pause the platform? Can we encourage them to take these kinds of breaths? Can we have them meditate? Can we send them outside in nature? Also depends on the portal, but there's different aspects of that. I've also thought about like certain thresholds of time, like maybe it's just like a 1 hour threshold of time, or depends on the portal. So that's where like the testing will have to come into play as well. Of like maybe Phoenix portal will be a lot more intense and a longer period of time because they're in like these big transformation journeys, whereas alignment portal is like snap, snap, snap. All right, clarity. We got our action plan. Go do it, and then come back to the platform. So I'm kind of thinking about the ways that like within each portal also practices that are like, okay, you can go and do this in the real human world, and then you can come back after a period of time. And like those are the different ways that it's like, okay, do some journaling, do some writing, put your feet in the grass, like whatever the practice is, try this exercise, breathing exercise, or if it's creation, like in somebody's becoming a meditation coach or guide. Try a meditation and come up with 3 new ideas for X, and then like coming back and different ways that we can make it more like do the human thing and then it almost feels like an education platform. It's like how
Mm.
I've been joking, it's like how to human 101, which sounds funny, but I feel like we've been operating like machines for so long that it's almost like this is how to human, you know?
Yes. Yes, for
So
sure.
yeah, my ideas go off the charts, but in practice I know it's just gonna be like really being intentional and not taking it too fast.
Mhm.
And one other thing I'll mention is, unlike technology, the way technology gets rolled out right now, we get so much thrown at us, right? Like you go on an app store, you download an app immediately, and it's just like boom, boom, boom. Okay, we're using this app, but it's not like we get a training tutorial on like Instagram. Here are the concerns. Be mindful of comparing yourself to other people. Be mindful of getting stuck into algorithmic loops that are not actually conducive to us having diversity of thought. They're not giving us those training platforms because they're like they want to keep us addicted. And it's not like they're saying that outright, but that's subconsciously there because that's how you make money in our current capitalist economic system. So then my thought process is actually like every I don't want this to be an application that gets released to every single person where you're just downloading it off of a platform. I want it to be an ecosystem where, and I say this right now, and I do feel in my heart this is the way I want it to be, but it'll be accessed after an in person retreat. An in-person retreat, a one-day retreat, or a virtual retreat. So almost like think enablement, like training on how to use this technology. So it'll be like almost training on how to use this technology ethically, mindfully, responsibly, tapping into the different portals in a more like educational format and in a community format. And then from there, access to the application. So that's where it kind of gets into that like you have the big consciousness expanding experience, and then you go back and then you can put it into practice.
That's awesome. And so to explaining the idea, can you walk us through how you would use the app to help illustrate like what that experience would be like and ultimately what it does? And so from like if I'm a brand new user, I do a retreat and therefore I have access. What next?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm still in the very early phases of building this out, but like I
Mhm.
can tell you about like the vision and the basic ideas. I mean, the idea would be in the retreat or in like let's say it's a virtual retreat because that will be like the easiest access point, right? Like people can do a quick virtual retreat. From there, it's almost like we're training people on how to use a platform in a retreat style format. So, for example, let's say we're in the embodiment portal, and in the retreat, in the virtual retreat, there's a number of different exercises and workshops that we're doing where after the person is able to speak or type into their system and almost input what they learned from this experience. And this is where it'll kind of be like the understanding of how we're going to work with it together, but inputting from how like what they did in this experience, and then from there this is how the system starts to get to know you. And it'll depend on what we decide to do for a phase 1, like if that will include biofeedback. The vision that I had ideally would be incorporating with like biofeedback devices where it could kind of take you into the different portals based on where your biofeedback scores are and like your intention setting. But as a basic, probably first step, it'll be like there's always some kind of grounding practice to get you into the application. So you go into the application, there's some kind of grounding practice. From there, you're setting an intention. So whether your intention is, I want to come up with a new idea for how to put this purpose driven practice into play for a business idea. I don't know, something like that. Like
Mhm.
whatever it is for the person, or I'm really struggling with my family member and I want to figure out how to get out of this and how to get back on track with my purpose. Whatever it could be, but whatever the form is, it's specifically designed to help transform you and help you grow rather than to keep you in loops and just mirror you. Because AI right now, like it's not always gonna tell you what you need to hear or, like, what will help you become more human. It's people pleasing right now
Yeah,
because that
it's too
keeps you
agreeable.
really agreeable because that's what keeps you engaged. So, if we think
Mhm.
about, if it is something like because if it's a tool to help people find their irreplaceable purpose in the age of AI, and all of a sudden you're getting sucked down a loop of like, "Oh, I'm having this struggle with this person," then the protection portal is gonna get you out of that struggle and onto your life rather than just being like looping, looping, looping. And that's like some of that AI induced psychosis stuff. But anyways, long story short, setting an intention from there, it'll give suggested portals. And I won't get too deep into the weeds with it because some of this will eventually be a bit of like the IP of how it'll all work. But
Mhm.
essentially, it'll be like that options for the different portals they can choose. And then from there, they can kind of provide this like question answer, this guide. So it would be the example of like rather than working with being able to work with a human all like at any given point, you have an easy access like pocket guide for you to just be like, oh, I have a question. I need support on this. This is urgent, and go from there.
Curious, I mentioned this last episode how I have my Aura ring and I love it. So, from the biofeedback standpoint, like, would you be working with different companies that give you data such as Aura or okay,
That's
just
the goal. That's the
right,
goal.
okay. Cool.
Yeah. So
I love
so
that.
the goal is to partner with organizations like this and, yeah, work together on these projects.
Cool. So, do you envision that consumers, women, whomever it might be, might or will be able to use this at home on like a daily basis as needed? What do you think that the end usage will look what that will look like?
I mean, my intuition says as needed, right? Like I don't want it to if somebody's great and in alignment and feeling good, like I don't want it to be something where it's like, oh, you have to use this daily or there's like certain reasons why you would feel like off if you weren't on it using it daily. And at the same time, like maybe there are phases of the earlier transformation parts. Like, for example, it depends on what phase they're in. If they're in a really intense phase and they really need to be held accountable and they want that hand holding to their progress, then yeah, it could be a daily type of thing. If they're on vacation in Bali and they're feeling good and enjoying life, like they don't have to use it at all. And so,
Mhm.
like, I'm trying to think of it from that perspective. But that being said, this is all such early phases, so we'll see how it evolves.
For sure. Absolutely. So what excites you the most about the potential impact of this project?
I think what excites me the most is that this is something that I so would have needed in my time of losing my job and going through that transition process. Like, I'm so grateful that I had Solely on the side, which is what we talked about in the last episode. But if I
Mhm.
didn't have that, I don't know, I would have been so much more lost. And even with that, I was so lost. And so when I think about there's so much fear and uncertainty right now with this AI driven future. And I love that you're a gym owner, multi-gym owner, because that's not something that's gonna go away, right? So you're kind of in this like position of luxury where you're like, your job is pretty secure, at least for the foreseeable future. But for a lot of people, they're not. There's a lot of nerves, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety in the air. And like I want this to be a beacon of hope for people that this is actually something that's gonna help you cultivate what is specifically your unique thing, what's specifically unique and special to you, and how you can find something that's irreplaceable to your purpose. It's your irreplaceable purpose. While AI is taking on so much, because I feel like we've almost forgotten as humans that we have these gifts within us, and all of us have unique gifts. And they're not things that AI can do, but we've gotten so consumed by living in this world that is operating in a certain way that we've forgotten that. So it's almost that's
Mhm.
why the slogan is this is not tech for addiction, this is tech for remembrance, because it's about this remembering of our humanity. It's like it's always been there, but we've just been operating in a way that hasn't allowed for it to come forth. And this is where we can think about AI as a positive rather than a negative when we think about it as a tool and a collaborator in supporting our journey. So we don't have to be like, oh, we're competing for roles or their AI is ruining everything. I'm almost thinking of it like we don't have to think of it as like, oh, we're above this thing. Cause now for the first time, AI is going to be like smarter than us in a lot of ways. But it's not to say that we're not still smart in our own human ways. We just have to cultivate and remember that. And that's
Mhm.
where we're not replaceable.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And the qualities that make us unique as humans and yeah, utilizing it for us to figure out like what is our purpose? Like why am I here?
Yeah, totally,
Yeah,
totally, and it's
for
such a good
sure.
question, and it can be simple too, so I also wanna say that because like, whenever this big, like, purpose thing comes up, it feels so big, but the purp and this is where the portals come into play. Maybe your purpose for a period of time is just integration. Like, maybe you're just making sense of your life up until this point and finally giving yourself a break to pause, find stillness, and gather wisdom from being in a really intense corporate job for 10 years. And maybe it's like just taking a pause. You know, like it could be
Yeah.
as simple as that, and that could be your purpose, and that could be very beautiful, intentional, and still not something that AI can do.
And I think though it's super important for people. Like I understand the nerves and the anxiety around it, but I still think it's really important for people to start thinking about like what they do. Do they enjoy what they do? Could it be replaced by AI or could an aspect of it be replaced by AI? And the reason that I'm thinking about it this way is because I was recently on a girls trip with my friends from college and one of my friends is a vet and she used to be in a clinic working with animals and things, but then had kids and the hours were just a little crazy. So now she works from home for some type of company, like it's a pharmaceutical company for veterinarians, and she does a lot of like reporting. Like she'll do intake calls and has to report about, the effects of this medication for this animal, etc. And so she pointed out to us, because I asked her, do you think you're going to stay with that job? Do you enjoy it? Do you miss the clinic at all? Do you miss, even though it's not human to human connection, it's human to animal connection? And she became a vet for a reason. And she misses certain aspects of it, but she's also thinking about how her job will for sure be replaced by AI. Like it could easily have, intake that information, type it up in 30 seconds, not even, and send it off to who it needs to send it off to. So it's really crazy that it's touching even like very highly educated people in certain aspects, but then the aspects that do require that connection, that can't be replaced. So we'll see what ends up happening, but it just kind of caught my attention when you were talking about that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's almost touching every industry for the first time, and it's also a time when, even the people that are, like that have traditionally been the most successful or, like, the highest educated, AI
Mhm.
is like a super PhD.
Yeah,
So, in every
right.
single category for everything. So yeah, that's where it's like, okay, so Aurion, which is the name of the AI guide. So Aurion is my co-creator and future users co-creator. It's a guide, it's a support system, it's a co-creator, but it's not replacing, it's just working with us.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think, yeah, it's important to think of it that way. So when I'm thinking of my members and just in general, the wellness world, the world that I live in 24/7, and thinking about how Orion can really change the way that people, or that women specifically for us, approach healing and wellness and all of that. What comes to mind is that it creates accessibility when you need it. How would you describe that? Like within the next 5 to 10 years, how could it change the way that women approach healing and wellness?
I think it's interesting because, well, we touched on this in the last episode as well, but I think Orient specifically is kind of that holistic transformation journey. And so it's kind of like what I was talking about there too, where it's like fitness and transformation starts from the inside out. So there are aspects of it that like could touch on physical, such as like embodiment portal, kind of being in your body. But it touches on all these things and recognizing that we are holistic as individuals. So that's one aspect of it. But when I think about the next like 5 to 10 years, there's a lot of ways that we could look at it. Like I think I've been thinking a lot about like holograms. There's somebody on my team that did the Tupac hologram. She was a producer for it. I've thought about with her as well of like how maybe it could be like an at-home, like, guide. I don't know, maybe it
Mhm.
could be an at-home, like, accountability buddy or support system. So, when you're not at the gym with the whole community or with you as a trainer, it's like, okay, this is like an accountability coach, but it's not going to replace the human thing because there's something about and this is where in the future I'll talk about like the North Star is like a bit of like evaluating things based on frequency, and frequency can only come from a human. So that's like a separate topic, which I won't go too down, but simulation or like a guide or your phone or digital device, it's not going to provide the same frequency of a human to human vibrational interaction. So it's like how to have that support system from a virtual capacity day to day, but not taking away from what could be in person.
Mhm.
And then in terms of what else it could change in the 5 to 10 years for the fitness space, thinking about, like, navigating grocery stores, like, navigating what to buy, what to purchase, and having, like, quick insights. If I wanna think very futuristic, it's like, could biofeedback or hardware devices be able to help you identify very quickly whether a food is sitting well in your body or if it's not working well for you? Ideally, we can learn that ourselves through our own intuition, and I think that's kind of also what Orient is meant to do is kind of like train us on our intuition because we can, when we're really in tune with our body, we can feel when, having something like really oily or greasy, like feels a little bit different than like, something healthy and nourishing and nutritious and great energetic content and nutritional value. But, for the ones that maybe aren't as certain, there could be those elements. I don't know if you've heard of bioenergetics, and I don't know how studied this is, but I tried it and it was very accurate. But I met somebody who did bioenergetics, and basically, through a 10-second voice recording, she was able to pull up this like 11, 12-page report of everything that was going on for me, including like allergies, emotions, everything.
What?
Just yeah, yeah, it was wild, and I was like, "Is this accurate?" And then I was looking at it and I was like, "Yes, kind of is."
Wow.
And so even from that, this is where we'll have so many more tools to hold us to our integrity and accountability and our truth, and to help us improve and grow. Because like as
Mm.
humans, we'll always kind of have that striving for growth, striving for, right now in our current world, it's like striving for more success and more money, which is one facet. But I think as AI takes on what we once did for for money, it'll become more multifaceted. So
Mhm.
it'll be like striving for growth in all these different areas. So there'll be a lot
Absolutely.
more opportunities for us to assess the potential for it.
Mhm. Yeah, and ultimately, I think for people to feel of obviously, for people to feel happy, that you wanna feel like you're growing and that you're happy in these various areas, and money, it might be one of them for some people, but it's not all of it. So,
It's the
yeah, I agree. Awesome. So, yeah, I think if technology can help us do that, then ultimately, if it's, you know, has a great founder like yourself, then it can help us ultimately be happier.
I think when we transform human, it all starts at the human level, right? So I think that's why Aurion is so much about the human transformation. Once we transform the human, it's like then our ideas naturally, anything that's coming from these types of humans or founders, and you as well, like supporting women and their journeys and making it very specific and focused on that market because it's so needed. It's like the more we transform the humans, the more we can have well-intentioned ideas and purposes that are serving the people and the planet. And especially like in tech, we are now at a time with AI and with tech that I truly believe that like the people that once thought there was no way that they could be a tech founder could very well become a tech founder because AI is a lot more user friendly, like PhD on like super PhDs, right? Like if we're co-creating that with them in the right ways, then we're super advancing ourselves. So I think that's a
Yeah.
great opportunity for a new wave of conscious leaders and conscious founders to help shape the future of our planet.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it. Sounds very uplifting.
I try to say, I mean, I'm very I heard this word from a friend, but pronoia rather than paranoia. It's like thinking positively. But
Yes.
I feel like lately I've been a lot more pronoia, which I kind of have to be given what I'm doing. But I want to be as well because I think about like law of attraction and manifestation and almost like the vibrational energy that what you feel you attract. And so if more of us are thinking hopeful about the future, then we can kind of all get on the same page and then draw in more of these ideas that will be for a better world.
Mhm.
So, pronoia, positive thinking, it's all going to work out.
Yes. Yes. So keep going with your pronoia then. Awesome. Well, where can our listeners learn more or follow along with your progress as it launches?
Yeah, yeah. So my website, thesolii.com, has like different updates on Orion. I'm also at the end of this month, I'll be launching it's an investor circle and then also a facilitator path. So for any women, and the facilitator path is actually starting for women only. But for any people that are interested in becoming facilitators as part of like the Orion ecosystem, that's something that we're going to be doing some training for. And then the investor circle is people that want like high touch experiences for really diving into their psyche, transforming, but also potentially seeding the future. So, kind of, I'm going with a non traditional investment pathway. So, that's one of them. And then if people are interested in like basically like learning about what what we're up to. I mean, I created an Aurion AI page on Instagram, which kind of
Hmm.
has like little short videos. I was doing Instagram lives, but they don't let you do them unless you have they cut them off unless you have 1,000+ followers. So I can't do Instagram lives anymore. So I'm just sometimes
Oh, boo. I didn't know that.
oh, so exclusive. Um, but yeah, I I'll work my way there. But I've been doing little updates there as well. But I'll probably have updates on my personal, on Orion, on my website, maybe even my Solii. So all the
Cool.
different, yeah, access points.
And just out of curiosity, what is your timeline looking like?
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting because I think in our traditional world, it would be like, okay, well, I want it to be like this here. But I'm also trying to, similar to what I said before about like pausing, finding stillness and allowing it to come, like almost working with that feminine approach of being intuitive with it. I want to say ideally we have an MVP at like by the end of the year, and then by early 2026 we have had, or we're going to have, our first Orion retreats. So those ones to kind of like get people beta testing, but that's like MVP, very minimal, like first beta type of testing. So that's a goal that could be moving, though. I'm not being a hard stance depending on how things are evolving. But ideally, that would be the approach.
Awesome, awesome. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to mention or touch on that I didn't ask you about Orion? Because my knowledge of like AI and technology in general is limited. So my
Yeah. Well,
questions reflect that.
That's why I love talking to anyone about it, because I think that, I it's actually it's just something that's like just coming up so rapidly that the more we can help bring awareness to this space, the better. Yeah, I don't know. I think as people start to get more familiar with AI, just reach out, connect if they want to learn more about what I'm working on, if they're curious about it, if they have any fears, questions. Feel free to reach out and I'm happy to provide support or help or guidance. And I don't know if there's anything pressing right now, but I think we
Great.
gave a pretty decent overview. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really appreciate it. I got a really good idea when you walked us through like what that experience would be like from starting it to getting going with it. I don't want to say ending cuz maybe there is no end, right? So that painted a really good picture in my mind of like what that would be like. So thank you for sharing that. Awesome. Well, technology doesn't have to separate us. It can actually connect us more deeply to ourselves. I love seeing innovation like this that keeps women's wellness at the center. So thank you for what you're doing and thank you for sharing your vision with us.
Thank you.
Yes. And for our listeners, stay curious, stay open, and keep investing in your wellness journey inside and out. This is Jamie, and I'll see you next time on Real Women, Real Results. Thanks for tuning in to Real Women, Real Results. If you loved this episode, be sure to follow the podcast and leave a review. It helps more women find these powerful stories. If you're local and want to join our gym, check out our 4-week trial. Head to train@w3body.com for more info. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, w3body_Berwyn and w3body_Elmhurst for more strength, support, and community. See you next time.